When I was a lot younger, my parents used to take a lot of photos and videos of me. Very simple things like me just sitting in the living room or doing something or playing with toys. And over time, those videos got lost to memory because there was no one to actually archive them for what they were. And times have changed. A lot of media nowadays can be stored for decades, even centuries, and so something that usually takes only 10 to 20 minutes to make can then stick around for years. And that is both a positive thing when you want to preserve something that you're currently doing and look back upon it later, or a negative thing when you say something stupid on camera and people use it against you years down the line. And I'm at the crossroads where I'm deciding what the things that I say will be. I know for sure that they will be controversial because the ideas that I've been brewing in my head for quite a while have been controversial in nature. But it's better to let those ideas out in some form of constructive way or another than to just let them boil in. Because the more that I let them boil in, the more enshrined they become. And sometimes that can reach a point where it is dangerous. So I definitely don't want things to get to that point. I don't want to be overconsumed by these notions that I craft in my head about the world and the people in it. I want to share them, get people's opinion, and perhaps change my mind. And for a long time that has been the point of me making videos and posting them on the internet. But recently things have changed to the point where I founded this side hobby, which I've had for a while, which was, doing and making these videos. It's turned into a bit of like a moral conundrum because I'm wondering for how long I'll be able to sustain myself doing this, if ever. For a while, the way that I've been doing it is for automation. So putting several accounts up and then automating them to release content on a, semi-daily schedule, and then profiting off of monetizing that. But that's not connected to myself. That's just like a brand that is entirely separate from myself. That's like a channel that someone could do a face reveal on. That's a channel I could sell to someone and then they could take all the credit. It's not something that's connected to me. Whereas the videos that I'm putting out now, videos of this nature, are the closest, most introspective look that someone in the future could have at what I'm currently doing. And as I said, that is both a positive and a negative thing. So I guess I want to preface this with the fact that I want to give like an exact overview of where I'm coming from when I say these things. And perhaps that will grant you a much clearer vision of where I currently am in life and, where I'm sourcing it from. So, I was born originally in Europe. I migrated to the United States around the age of 10, so it's crazy that it's been almost 10 years. I'm turning 20 this year in just a couple months, and it's also crazy that not only have I been a legal adult for the past several years, which it certainly doesn't feel like, but I've come to have the responsibilities that go with it, and it's not something that I'm exactly proud about, because it doesn't take a genius to notice that there is a serious discourse in society. But a conclusion I've arrived to recently is that it is good that things are falling apart. The current economic system that we have, which is in the United States capitalism, and around the world pretty much capitalism but with vaguely socialist characteristics, it relies on people that exploit a problem in order to make an income. Some of the biggest companies that are around have solved huge problems that humanity has had. So companies like Apple have solved problems that we have with communication and technology, whereas companies like Amazon used those pre-existing solutions to solve problems with commerce. Before you had to go to a store, now you no longer have to do it, but at the cost of giving a certain fee to the website that you're sourcing it from, and the business profits from that. There are plenty of untapped things that There are plenty of untapped things that still exist which people can later exploit in order to make some sort of income. But my prediction is that there will be even more things of that nature in the next few years. And yeah, this is a bit of a long shot, but I definitely think it's possible. When we see the problems that we're facing today, we only see that they're intensifying. So as people become more disconnected and they resort to online communities, that's only growing. And we can see that growing through the rapid growth in social media platforms. Increased loneliness means people reach out for different ways to, get rid of that loneliness, means increased traffic for social media platforms, websites that host, anything from pornography to social meetups, really. Everything that can fulfill that need for social connection has been pretty much filtered and sold and packaged. That's what we can expect from literally every single problem that arises. And as these social pressures seem to intensify, and as people come to a boiling point where there's so much pressure on the system that they're no longer able to maintain their current lifestyles, there will prop up all kinds of capitalists that try to profit from it. We're not likely to see anything of the nature that we have today. We're likely to see total replacements for the things that we do in our daily life, likely through artificial intelligence. So in the next few years we can expect AI-driven efforts in order to reduce some of the problems that people face. And these can be new and exciting things. For example, in the next few years, artificial intelligence may be able to make full-on movies from just a simple prompt. But it is going to greatly obscure what it means to be a person. And if you study psychology to any extent, you can see that the levels of cognitive development that most people have been steadily declining throughout the last few years. In a way, because we live in a post-literate society where reading is no longer a privilege, it is something that every single person can do, and most people refuse to do it in a proper way. People simply don't bother with things like politeness or niceties or forming communities. That's no longer relevant. It's not needed in this post-capitalist, post-literate system. It's something that merely exists, and whether we want to keep it there or whether we want to get rid of it is something that can be decided on a whim. What I mean by that is that the vast majority of people that you pass on the street don't actually want to learn anything. They're driven by primary factors like their survival or pleasure. They pretty much just want to work a job so they can buy nice stuff to make them happy, so they can build a little nest around themselves to keep themselves safe, or what they view as an illusion of safe, until something like a tragic event comes to break that peripheral. And it doesn't take a philosopher to actually notice this, because just in this moment I'm getting reminded of it. I currently live in an apartment in Miami. There are people on that side of the wall that are currently yapping, and whenever I try to record a video just like this one, they knock on the wall without any consideration to what I'm saying, or perhaps they may be important. But I hear a noise, I knock on a wall, right? I have a thought, I must act on it. That's why icks have been trending. That's why, women talk, oh, this is such an ick. Oh, when a guy has an umbrella, it's an ick. That's a thought they have. Women have always had this thought. But now girls are encouraged to act on it. And men function a similar way, because men have gotten a lot more desperate recently. Partially because they've always been desperate, but now it's become socially acceptable for them to be so, because they're more distanced from other people. Shame pretty much doesn't exist in modern society, so they can just act on all of their impulses. We're likely to see a rising crime rate because of this, but it's of no concern to our governments, which also act on their impulses. It doesn't take a revolutionary to sort all of this out, but nevertheless it's still there. So there's a lack of deep processing and thought behind most of the things that people do. It's why a lot of people simply can't seem to maintain It's why most people seem unable of maintaining relationships, whether they are social or romantic. And by it, I mean the dissatisfaction with the waiting time of thinking over an action. These days, people seem to break up or end friendships on a whim. It no longer is this long ordeal that it would have to be a couple of hundred years ago when we existed in small communities of a couple dozen to a couple hundred people. Back then, you would see the person that you antagonize on a daily basis, so it's pretty impractical for you to cast them out like this. But with the privilege of meeting thousands of new people and being able to make hundreds of new friends comes the fact that it's much easier to leave someone behind now. And what we're seeing is a lot of people nowadays seem to get left behind. That has been my experience personally throughout high school. Not in the sense that I was unpopular. I was definitely well known, but I was controversial. A lot of people didn't like what I was saying. A lot of people didn't like that I expressed myself in a controversial way, not in a way that I was political or even antagonizing the people. I never started fights, but because I existed sort of unapologetically. People don't like that. They like when you're argumentative, as long as it is when you're argumentative for their side. When you sort of break things down and, try to elaborate your position, that's no longer of any interest to anyone. It's what we pay people to do at the high calibers of society. It's what we pay YouTubers for. It's what we pay writers for. It's what we pay content creators in sites like TikTok or even Twitter for. And I'm not gonna call it X because that's stupid. But we don't expect it out of the people in our lives. We don't want them to, give feedback or talk about their emotions or thoughts or feelings. We just want them to sort of be there like NPCs in a video game. And I've never seen this anywhere more than in the United States. And I'm not saying right now I want to get the hell out of here, but I see in the foreseeable future why I might want to, and why a lot of Americans want to. Which is ironic for me, because technically I've moved here. And a lot of people ask me, Jacob, if you don't like where the United States is heading, why'd you decide to move here? I didn't make the decision, my parents did. Right? Because a lot of older people have this perception of the American dream and of making something out of a country that is empty. This country is no longer empty. It's already developed beyond the point of any other country. All you can milk out of this is sentiment. You can't really make proper money here. And the rest of the world will soon follow suit, which is very disheartening. But it's something that we have to cope with on an almost daily basis. I don't know, we'll see where things go, but as it stands, I don't really like the concepts of modernity. Not only because I felt personally antagonized by it when people are so disconnected from one another, but because it just doesn't seem like a sustainable way to have a society. Maybe these thoughts are a little bit too deep for a 20-year-old, so I'm going to stop now, at the risk of sounding pretentious. But, yeah.